And record. And here we go. Actually, clap. Hello, everyone. This is Deshauna Barber, CEO of Service Women's Action Network, and I am joined by an amazing guest. This is Army Staff Sergeant Alleria Stanley, and she is our amazing Fireside Chat participant. It is LGBTQ History Month as of October 2021. And we're super excited to bring someone from that community that is not only an amazing representative of the community, but is also a current service member. So hello, Alleria. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for taking your time out. And we're just excited to hear your story, ask you some questions about your 18 years of service. And for now, I just want to make sure that the SWAN community knows exactly who you are. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
A little bit about myself. Well, I am, as you mentioned, an Army Staff Sergeant. I've got 18 plus years of service in, and I promise I'm not counting down towards the end, but I am looking forward to the future retirement. I am 48 years old and feeling it after 18 years in the Army. I've had the pleasure of working both combat aviation. I used to work on Apache helicopters and deployed to Afghanistan to Kandahar as that role. And after a bit of a family shift in environment due to breast cancer, which that led me to joining the medical community, where I serve as an X-ray tech, and I've risen up through several hospitals, and it has given me an opportunity to help people, which is an absolute joy. I love it. I have 2 kids of my own, plus 3 stepchildren, who my youngest is 16 and graduate high school next year. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So I am getting ready to start that next phase of life. I'm looking forward to being an old Cadillac. I have 5 cats. I love to fly. I have an absolute passion for flying. It's one of my joys, is to gain altitude and gain peace and comfort that way. Probably why I started aviation. But I'm looking forward to everything that comes, and it is a wonderful day to be here today with SWAN. Absolutely.
Thank you, Alleria. And speaking of flying, the fact that you love to fly is awesome, and you have a favorite shirt that tells those around you what aircraft you prefer. Can you tell us more about that? And also, you say that you find peace in the air, and you even wrote a poem named Cathedral. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Sure. I love to write. It's my way of artistic expression. Since I'm horrible at drawing, I make stick figures look like they were in industrial accidents. And so I should never, ever draw or paint, but I love writing. Yes. So when I fly, I long ago fell in love with the Boeing Aircraft Company. Between the 747, the Queen of the Skies. I'm an aviation geek. I can talk all of the Boeing aircraft. So I'll spare your listeners. Did not come for a Boeing aviation lecture, but I do have what I call my aviation uniform when I fly. I have a shirt that says, "If it's not Boeing, I'm not going."
I love it.
And I have aircraft earrings, and I fly Boeing aircraft. I'm one of those people, I will look for the details of that plane. And if it's a Boeing, I'm on it. If it's another company, I try to avoid it. So I'm one of those aviation nuts. As far as flying, it gives the opportunity to see the world from an entirely different view. And it's one that for thousands of years, humans did not get a chance to see. And I'm one of those people, I don't understand pulling the shades closed when you're in the air. And for me, I call it visiting the cathedral. It's where I gain my spirituality. It's where I find peace, where I can detach from the rest of the world, because you break away from the world for a little bit, unless you're paying for the extra Wi-Fi and so forth. You're detached for a couple hours, and it's just you to enjoy watching the world go by, look at it from a different view, see the sky, see the stars that you often can't see. And it's where I say that the angels go to play. And
yes,
I love it. And so I did write Cathedral. I was flying, and one day I'd end the flight and the words started to come to me. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to write this down. I flagged the flight attendant down, and I said, need a pen and a napkin, any kind of paper, anything. And I wrote it on a napkin, and it's one of my favorite pieces. So I'll
I
share it
love
with
it.
you so you can share it with the group. It's
Yes, yes, please send it to us. We'd be happy to post it. I love that you connected your place of peace, not only being in a cathedral, being in some sort of like spiritual place, but also being in the air. I think a lot of people can connect with that. There's something about being in the clouds. Even when I'm on a plane, I like to, take my phone and point it out when I see a pretty cloud or the sun coming through the horizon. It's very beautiful.
I have hundreds and hundreds of flying pictures, and
Yes,
most people are like, they all look the same to me, but to me, they're all very different.
very different.
When I get stressed out, I'll sometimes come around saying, I need some altitude. I need
Yeah.
to go to my altitude so I can just go and find my peace in the cathedral.
Amazing. I love this. We're going to transition a little bit to your military career, just when you started and you decided to enter. So we know that you entered the military in 2003.
Yes.
And you came out as a transgender woman in 2016. Can you please tell us about your experiences before and after you chose to come out? And did the military make your transition easy or difficult? Or both?
I mean, this is SWAN, so servicemen. So I think it's safe to say, does anyone know any time when the military's made something easy?
For women, exactly.
Agreed. Never happened.
Agreed.
2003, I had a very nice career going in the travel industry, and the war in Afghanistan started, and I got the feeling like I need to be doing something else. How do I sit here, watch the news, and listen to minor issues and complaints? And unfortunately, I also weighed 367 pounds at the time. So I had to shed a good bit of weight before the Army recruiter would talk to me, but then I did, and I shipped off to Fort Knox, Kentucky, February 2003, and ended up, my first tour of duty was in Germany, and then we went to Afghanistan, to the garden spot of Kandahar, on the Army vacation plan. And I gained experiences there that I'll never, ever forget. As far as being trans, I've known for a long time that I was different. I'm born in 1973. I grew up in the age before internet, in a small rural town of about 5,000. There's not a lot of research like, so this is what I feel like, what is this? And, but I knew I was different. When I came out to my dad, he told me, it's like, yeah, I've known for over 30 years. You often know. I just didn't know what it was called. I did know about my identity when I joined, but I felt very strongly that I needed to serve my country. I wanted to serve my country. I was an Army brat, and it was my turn. We were literally at war. How could I not? But I also had to keep it a secret, because at that time, it was actually classified as a mental disorder, and you would be immediately discharged as unfit for service. Words that would come to haunt me later. June 30th, 2016. I will never, ever forget that. When the policy under President Barack Obama's administration came out, that transgender service members could serve openly. And what had once been the absolute fear, because even with the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, that took care of the L, the G, and the B, but it did nothing for the T. T's did not get to come out and serve openly. And after that day, I remember going into work in uniform and being able to say to someone else in uniform, I am transgender, and to not be afraid. It's like, in the military, we're all about our values. And one of the biggest values is honesty, integrity. And when you're living that lie, when you're hiding it, it's difficult, because it goes against what you're supposed to do, but you want to serve. And so there's always that conflict of having to hide who you are just so that you can be serving your country that you love. And to not have to do that anymore, it was an incredible freedom. And I remember sitting there and just tears coming down, the joy of it. That was June 30th, 2016. We changed administrations not too long after that. And I was camping with my family in Minnesota in July of 2017 and didn't get a lot of signal, but I got just enough one morning to discover that my commander-in-chief had put out a tweet, 3 of them actually, saying that service by transgender individuals was incompatible with military service and would not be allowed. And so I joined many others who were fired by Twitter by the commander-in-chief. And I went back to work after I leave, not knowing if I still had a job, what was the situation. Was I going to be penalized for trusting the system, trusting the military and the army that I love to come out? And I'm guessing there are lawyers, because there were so many legal cases and brave service persons who were taking those legal cases, even while active duty. And it was decided that if you'd already come out, you could serve, but no one else could. So in theory, I'm safe, right? I'm going to make it. I'm allowed to serve, just like several others who come out. But unsaid, it was the attitude that came with that declaration was that just wait, we have to let them stay, but we're not letting anyone else in, and then we'll be done with them. They'll all be gone. All of them who we don't want in the military anyway, they'll be gone. So just wait, everybody. They'll be great. And it created a climate, an attitude of absolute intolerance. Yes, I was having to be allowed to stay in, but the commander-in-chief had said that we are not compatible with military service. And regardless of how many of us had served in vital places and still were serving in very vital positions within the military, high-ranking positions within the military, completely through all the services, had deployed combat medals, promotions, it didn't matter. We were labeled as not valued to be in the military. We were not going to be a part of it. And so for the rest of the administration, that was the climate that was created. And it had a very chilling effect. It had a chilling effect on all transitions. You couldn't go back into the closet, and you could have dragged me back in anyway, but you were definitely one of the others, the thems. And it was, again, with joy when President Biden reversed that shortly after the beginning of his administration. And so it's not been an easy ride, but we're once again allowed to serve openly. We're still working to other classes of LGBTQ, for example, the intersex and non-binary, so that they can also serve openly because they want to and without fear of being discovered. And that fear is very, very real, just as it was under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, or even prior to that for all of the LGBTQ. During security investigations for my clearances, and for as someone who was not valued, I ended up with a top secret clearance. So figure that one out. But I still had to, during the process, I had to say that I was transgender, and do I lie, not get my clearance, or do I come clean? And the investigator just wanted to know if I would admit it, because of course you can't hide all secrets forever. I've had multiple investigations, and still it's become a no big deal. But at the time when you're hiding and you're wondering every day, is it going to show up in a medical record? Is it going to be a surprise inspection, or we're going to do a foot healthcare inspection, and oh my gosh, my nails are painted. What am I going to do? It's terrible fear. And I'm so glad that the ones coming behind us are not going to have that fear and can focus on serving their country, which is what it's all about.
I absolutely love everything that you're saying. And, it's very interesting because I think when the tweet first came out, and I think there was just a lot of opinions and a lot of real misconceptions that people have when it comes to what does it mean for a transgender person to exist in the military. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about the two main things, which is cost of surgery, which is one of the bigger misconceptions, and trans service members are a distraction. I feel like we can both clearly argue on the same side of the house that it's not a distraction, a person being who they are. So let's ignore that part. But the cost of surgery, can you tell us a little bit about that misconception?
Well, part of the first misconception is that all transgender persons want surgery, and that's not at all true. Transgender
Right.
persons, just like any medical situation, seek a spectrum of care. For many transgender persons, just having the opportunity to go talk to a counselor and maybe once a month, that's all they need and they're happy. Others will be happy with taking hormones. Others, maybe some surgery, not the other surgeries. It's a mix and match, and there's no clear definition that if you are this, then you're going to have that surgery.
Right.
So that's the first biggest misconception. And the next is that it's really that expensive. It's not. The military spends far more on medication for erectile dysfunction than it ever does for transgender care.
Yes.
And which that says a lot for where our priorities are, I guess. But
Right.
it also, I joke about, but it's true. People want to be happy in their skin.
Yes.
And they want to be happy in their relationships. They want to be fully who they are. And so, yes, erectile dysfunction is a thing that people counter, and the military says that's a stress upon you, and we want to help take that stress off so that you're a better functioning person.
Right.
It works in all areas. We want to be fully functional in all of our areas. We want to be happy and stress-free and to be fully who we are. And so what may be solved with the stereotypical little blue pill is sometimes just a matter of being able to talk to someone and say, you know, this is what it feels like. And it's not anyone has to understand what it's like. For example, women have no idea what erectile dysfunction feels like and are more than happy that they don't have to worry about that.
Right.
If you've never had cancer, you don't know what it's like to be a cancer patient or to need a transplant or any other thing that you've never experienced. You don't have to understand it. And understanding what transgender is, that's kind of difficult and it's odd, and maybe you've never understood it, but it's not required. All that we require of people and with any situation is just dignity and respect, compassion for them. Doesn't matter what their situation is. Someone came up and said, you know, I'm having to go seek counseling. I'm really having all these rough time. It's like, hey, let me help you out. It's fine. Oh, I've got to go and I've broken my arm, or you know, the tests have come back and I've got to have more tests by a doctor and they're trying to figure out what's wrong, but it doesn't look good. Dignity and respect. You don't have to understand what it is to be, just to care. That's all it takes.
I agree. And I think, you know, when this first was stated years ago in 2017, I remember, I believe I was interviewing about it because I was Miss USA at the time. So how do you feel about this transgender ban in the military? And I said, you know, when someone's saving your life, you're not really concerned about those things. You know, as service members, we're doing something that's incredibly honorable. And if a person is who they are, I don't think any of that matters. You know, when you have your battle buddy to your left and your right, I don't care. You know, a person is allowed to be who they are. And it's incredibly important that we don't worry about, because to me, that's a personal decision, and that is who this person is. And it's none of, even when you're saying like understanding, being understanding who a person is, I feel like in my mind, if this person is a transgender woman, then she's a transgender woman. She has complete, complete agency over who she is. And it's not up to me to, one, be judgmental. And it's not up to me to try to kind of push my belief systems onto somebody else. If a person is existing and they're serving next to me, then that's what they're doing. And I believe that's an honorable thing. And I feel like there is this entitlement that is placed over other people. And we really need to lose that as a society. We have no entitlement to other people in their lives. And it's incredibly important that we function that way in society and not feel as though we can determine how a person should live or who a person is. I believe that people should make the decision on their own. And I think it's important to stay true to yourself. And that's one thing that I hate, is when you live in a society where people force their belief systems on other people, and it impacts whether a person wants to feel true to who they are. So they feel so scared and judged that they'll hide who they really are. I think it's a beautiful thing when people, discover their true self. And it's very frustrating to me that anyone is afraid to serve the country. Like, it's one of those things, because it's so honorable. It's so integrity driven. It's very giving. So it's frustrating to me that anybody is ever afraid to be who they are and exists within our military service, because what are we, 2%ers? Only 2% of, the American population has served in the military. And it's such an American thing to do. It's so beyond patriotic. So to deny somebody that opportunity is really mind-boggling to me. So that was my soapbox.
It was a lovely soapbox. I definitely agree with that. One of the things that, and I loved what you said about agency, because we all have that agency to make our choices. Service is not mandatory in our country, and it shows, as you said, 2% of the population ends up serving in the military. It's very rare. And
Yes.
when you have people lining up saying, I want to do it, that's valuable. The military spends a lot of money trying to get people to join them. When you have people saying, I'll do it, by all means, come on in. I have, in a lot of my conversations with other service members, I often get, I've never served with a trans person before. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You've been serving with me since 2003. Transgender persons have been in the military for decades and decades, going back hundreds of years. We've been here, we've been serving. Just, it wasn't important that you know it, or we couldn't tell anyone about it. But when you're under fire, you're not going to say, hey, I need help, send a medic. Wait, don't send the gay one. Or don't send the trans, or if we go back decades, don't send me the female medic, or don't send me the African-American medic, or whichever group we're saying can't possibly serve. All you care about is like, send me the medic, or send me some covering fire, send in the Air Force. We're not picky about it. It doesn't matter. Just, hey, can you fire your weapon? Can you do your job? And we are perfectly capable of doing it as much as anyone else. And we've proven that day in and day out, every year, every day.
Absolutely. And this has been an amazing conversation. I think we're going to close out with this last question here, which is really great. I wanted you to tell us a little bit more about your position within the Military Women's Memorial. We know that you were honored in the Military Women's Memorial for your contribution to more than one story writing workshop and storytelling poems. How was that experience, and what does that mean to you?
It came as a complete surprise to me. I never expected it. And such a humbling experience to join all these amazing women. I remember joining the workshop and recognizing some of them, like Jennifer Dane, who's the CEO of Modern Military Association.
Yes.
Or Jules Sohn, and several others who are all heroic, courageous figures in their own right. And they all have their own story, which is the nature of the writing project, was that we all have more than one story. You can't sum it up as just, oh, women, one story, then it's all block. Everyone's different. And to be included as part of that, with no questions asked, nothing, that absolutely, you're one of the women in the military. And then to have that whole event, and the writing project is permanently enshrined in the Military Women's Memorial over at Arlington, to know that, and to be able to take my kids and say, look, there's mom, and to watch it there. And it's very proud feeling that I have. It's also so amazingly humble when I look at all the other women who over time have just pushed the barriers to set it out that we can do this. We absolutely can do this. We're as equal to do it. And time after time. We just recently got the news story of the first all-female honor guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And
Right.
you know what? It was great, and no one could tell the difference, and it was wonderful and too long in coming. And there's going to be continue being all these first, and one day there's not going to be any more first, and it's not going to be a big deal. It's going to be, yeah, of course you're here. Of course you're doing this. Why wouldn't you? And by the way, you got duty. Go get on. So
Right.
it's an absolute joy, and I can't wait to see what else we do.
Absolutely. And that brings me to my last closing portion of the fireside chat. We have a lot of people in the SWAN community that want to support the mission of LGBTQ persons within the military and beyond that during their veteran periods of life. We talk a lot about, in the world allyship and how can we become allies. Do you have any suggestions to the viewers that are watching? How do we put a stop to discrimination of transgender service members, or what resources or things can we do to be more supportive to this community? I know you mentioned Jennifer Dane, which is part of a modern military, what's the word? It's
MMAA, Modern Military Association of America.
Of America, yes. I know
and it's
that's
very
an
close to
organization
MMA
that's
because she's quite the fighter for the women and the LGBT in America military. So I've always loved that those letters line up just like that. It's very easy to be an ally. It takes nothing. I mean, obviously donations are always accepted to whichever organization you love to support. Please continue to do so. But acknowledge pronouns. You'll notice on the label of my screen, I have my pronouns there, and that's to normalize it. And it's so that also people don't have to ask, excuse me, what are your pronouns? Because you're trying to be helpful. You just say, hi, my name is Becky. My pronouns are she and her. And that immediately tells anyone else, this is a safe place. This is someone who's inviting. This is someone who is welcoming to me. And then they will invite themselves instead of saying, excuse me, what are your pronouns? What are your pronouns? What are your pronouns? Just get used to saying what your pronouns are. You can also, it's very easy to, in the absence of someone who is a them and an other group, when they're not there, to deride them. So stand up for them when someone is making the transgender joke or the gay joke, or they can possibly serve or anything like that. As much as you would not tolerate someone saying the N-word or deriding women in their absence, don't tolerate it for anyone else. That's where being an ally is in the absence of the person that they would never come up and say it to your face when they're absent. Make it a safe space, even still, for them to be there and say, you know what, I'm not putting up with that. That's not good, because I know trans people, I know LGBT folks in the military, and I know they can serve, and they're doing a great job. And I'm proud to have them as my sisters and brothers in arms.
Agreed. It comes down to real individual acts of kindness, individual acts of allyship. A lot of people think that it's like, oh, we need to pass even bigger portions of legislation, and that's great as well. Those are awesome things to do, to put in place. But it's also even more than the bigger pieces. Sometimes it's the small, subtle moments, like you said, she and her, and things along those lines, where you're able to give the person those proper pronouns. So I really, really, really love that. And, this conversation has been really great, really eye-opening. We are always honored to have people that are representing different communities come onto SWAN's platforms and be a part of these conversations. And we're just so thankful to you, Alleria, for the opportunity to talk. If people want to keep in touch with you or keep up with your story or websites or anything like that, do you have a way for people to get in touch?
I do. I'm going to save listing them here. I will provide them through the contacts, and you can bundle it up with everything else. And I want to thank SWAN, because while I have not directly benefited from SWAN's actions, I have, as part of the community, SWAN has been out there helping women in ways large and small, and I am happy to support SWAN, and I'm glad SWAN supports us, and all of whomever us may be. I'm glad SWAN is out there helping us, and definitely let's keep that support going.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alleria. We definitely will. SWAN is going to be fighting the battles for history to come. So the mission is definitely not going to stop, and we're glad to have you a part of that community. And everyone that's watching, thank you so much for tuning in to our Fireside Chat, and we will be back again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.